Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Glacé Film Club podcast. And yes, here we are once again to dive into a film, tear it apart, and let you know what we think about it. And when I say we, it's not just me on my own banging on a film. It is my friend, confidant, person who has known about films and all other cultural endeavours for many, many years now. And he's here to share his thoughts and feelings with you. It is, of course, Callum. Callum, how are you doing today?
I'm all right.
Good.
I'm always
we
all
can
right.
take all right, can't we? We can
I'm
take
always
all right.
I'm always all right. I'm not bad.
But it's always good to check on these things as well.
It's like that Bill Bailey joke, isn't it? It's a very English thing to say. How's things? Not bad. It's like things not great, but I'm not bad.
Yeah, just getting by.
Yeah, something like that.
There's something English about getting by.
I'm good though. There you go. Say I'm good. I'm not bad. I'm good.
There we go. See, I'm lifting you just from the minute from starting talking to me. You've gone from all right to good.
Yeah. I've been exercising.
Oh, tell me more.
It's good. Well, just making sure that you keep the skin healthy.
Keep the blood pumping around the body.
Exactly. Everything they say is true, which is annoying. If you eat
your new album?
if you eat vegetables regularly and exercise, you feel a lot better.
Yeah. It's mad that, isn't it? Every time I do that, I think they should tell you this more often.
I know.
And go to bed as well.
Go to bed, yeah. Early. Go to bed before. Ideally, you want to be asleep before 10ish, really.
Yeah, not too early, though. Not too early. What are you working on these days?
Well, I get up
bedtime.
I get up at like 6 a.m., 10 past 6. So I start sort of winding down around 9:30, 10 o'clock, but I never really actually get to sleep until after it.
What's your wind down ritual?
I usually watch a film.
This is on brand, and I like it.
Usually watch a film or
top 3 wind down films.
National Treasure 2.
Yes.
Straight in there.
Yeah, good.
National Treasure 2.
National Treasure 1.
National Treasure 1. And something else that's inoffensive. Shrek.
Lovely. Yeah, I could wind down to those films. Absolutely. I used to watch a lot of snooker in bed as a kid, as a troubled childhood sleeper.
I was going to say
the snooker was my companion in the hours leading up to slumber.
Were you born middle-aged? Like Benjamin.
I was just born scared, and I needed something on in my bedroom to try and avoid the night terrors, and it was those red balls slowly rolling up and down the table which assisted me.
Sounds like a David Lynch film. Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, well, it was there's something very calming about it. Like just that one camera angle that's there for most of it. It just the clanking of the balls cannoning off each other and the soft, non-excitable tones of the commentator. It's comforting but also relaxing. And I would put it to you, the snooker is on at the minute. The World Championships are on, and if you are struggling to wind down, I'd just pop that on for 20 minutes.
I might do that this evening.
Yeah, and because the games are so long as well, you're not in danger of missing out or it ending. It never ends. That's the thing. It's just a constant flow of blurry images rolling up and down the screen and the monotone voices of the commentator, and so you snooze off.
Sounds like cricket.
It's got some similarities. I think there's a real Venn diagram of cricket and snooker fans.
I'm goading you because I know you like cricket.
But I'm not rising to it. I'm not rising to it. I'm passing the goading on to other fans of the sport and not putting myself in that circle. But cricket's relaxing, but it's not a fall asleep one. It's more meditative, whereas snooker for me is fall asleep.
Fair enough.
And that's that. Well, there's the analysis of sleep. Maybe we should get a few more top threes in at the top of the show, because we do enjoy that. And we do, of course, enjoy them from High Fidelity. If you go back to our
Oh,
anniversary
yeah.
100th episode, we do a lot of
Yeah.
top fives in that. So there we go. I'll fire some more of those at you down the line, Callum. Has there been any more culture on the scene recently? I've been doing my best to try and infiltrate Callum's cultural corner with my own. It's just I don't quite have a snappy title for my engagement in culture.
Went for a walk on Saturday. I did the Seven Sisters Cliff Walk again.
Wow. Talk me through that.
Well, I'm climbing Ben Nevis in May half term,
Mm.
and need to do some training for it. So just slowly doing like these massive walks. It's about 13, 14 miles.
It's a fair schlep.
I'm doing Rye to Hastings this Saturday. There's something meditative about putting one foot in front of the other. It's like Rebecca Solnit's History of Walking.
Chop wood, carry water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this the meditation episode?
I think it could be.
This is our calm
Yeah.
episode. Maybe it's because we're recording later in the evening. We're just in the, slightly more calm and heading one eye on slumber, and this is just giving a nice relaxed feel to it.
Well, I've been talking all day, so
Yeah.
this is an opportunity to talk calmly and quietly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've been hand modelling today, so there's been quite a lack of talking in that. So it's nice the opportunity to get the vocal cords
What
going.
did you do? Just hand modelling? Just put your hands up.
My hands weren't the central point, but for some filming we do for adverts for board games, it needs hands to demonstrate the board games. And for many years now, I have been not the face, but the hands of this specific brand of board games. And today was another one of those great filming days. It's just you don't get great opportunity to project your voice in those situations. It's more on what you're doing with your digits.
Did you moisturise?
Always. Well, that's when you are a hand model, Callum. It's not something you just do on the day of or the day before. It's something that you take as part of your day-to-day life, your routine. You keep it within you, and don't worry. These hands are well looked after for when the call comes to get in front of camera again.
What has happened here? What are we even talking about?
It's film related.
I'm going to see The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Friday.
That's a teaser, surely, for an upcoming episode.
Well, I got a members screening with the Curzon.
Yes.
So I have to go.
Could you please take a photo of yourself there, maybe with a poster?
Yeah, why not?
I would really like to start getting a sub-series of Instagram posts of Callum in a Curzon, and we can have a selection of photos of you over the months and years at different points in different Curzons.
Yeah.
Because I think
I don't see
we've called them out a few times now and big them up. I think we need to go that extra mile to really get their attention.
More than happy to. I might be I'll be frequenting a different Curzon soon because I'm moving.
Exciting.
So that's exciting.
Which is going to be your local?
The one in Hoxton.
Hoxton, there's a real throwback episode on here when I interviewed Damien Spandley, the head of programme at Hoxton Curzon. So if you want to go through the archives and check that one out,
that's going to be my local. Although I do have a soft spot for the one in Bloomsbury still. I do like it round there. Particularly the big cinema screen in that particular one is good. I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm going to be near the Castle Cinema in Hackney.
Ooh.
Which I used to go to very regularly. very regularly. Doesn't really make sense, does it? I went there regularly.
No, very regularly.
Very regular. Was it?
Very, very regularly.
Is that double infinitive? I've no idea. Probably not. I don't even know what that means. I don't know why I said it. I always go to the castle, and that was really good. They get really good toasties in there, and they have the most bourgeois spa you've ever seen in your life.
Wow. What makes it so bourgeois?
So it sells like for a start, I think it's got a coffee place in the spa, like proper like barista style coffee.
If a spa has its own barista, then you're really stepping it up a level.
It's also got there's like a tortilla place in there as well, and you can buy like sourdough and
come on,
really really fancy condiments, like that really posh lemonade, that really posh Victorian lemonade.
Yes.
That they only sell for like £9 at a museum.
The Spa are a very versatile and flexible brand. Like, you go to spas all across the country and they stock all sorts of niche stuff from local producers. This is like a full advert now, isn't it?
Well, the one in Blackpool.
If you go to Spa in Ireland, wow, there's a full deli in each one, and you can get a hot meal. And then remember the one at university at Lancaster, where you could get a roast dinner in the spa. You could get a full roast
in a polystyrene tray.
Polystyrene tray.
And it was like £3, wasn't it? It was
beautiful.
£3, and then you get like a tin that had fallen off a lorry for like 50p.
Yeah. Like they were magic in there. Like, you could just walk in with a fiver and come out a king.
Walk in with a fiver and come out with more money. They'd pay you to eat it.
Yeah,
like
beautiful.
A roast dinner in a polystyrene tray and a can of Carling. It's like that's what you get for going to northern universities before they become good.
I remember there was one period where they must have had like over-ordered on big bags of sensations, and they were flogging them at about 20p a pack. And it was like anyone's house I went to on campus for that week or so, there was just sensations everywhere. Like, everyone was sick of eating chicken and rosemary sensations, but we had to work through them. It was like it really brought people together at the university. It's like collective action.
One might say it was sensational.
Yes, nice, very nice.
Reminiscing about university again. We did this last week.
Are we in our nostalgia phase of podcasting?
Maybe. I mean, nostalgia
120 reviews was our magic number to start really reminiscing.
It's the pain from an old wound nostalgia, isn't it?
There you go. I wouldn't like to think that was a wound.
Well,
it was a wonderful point in my life.
I was referencing Mad Men when he nostalgia literally means pain from an old wound. I remember I read The Future of Nostalgia by Svetlana Boym, and I know for a fact some of our listeners will be crying with laughter now. Just the very mention of me mentioning that book, because I always used to bring it up. And every time I met up with people, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm reading this book called The Future of Nostalgia," and it's like I've been reading it for like years.
Yeah. You've just been really taking it in, like properly focusing on it.
It's like
poring over every word.
I'm only reading this one book. Like, it was dense.
It became your personality.
It was dense. Yeah. Like nostalgia and like memory. It's sinews and all. Anyway, speaking of nostalgia,
go back to the Curzon. Is that I had a sighting of one at weekend. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go in, but in Sheffield, I didn't realise there was a Curzon in Sheffield.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to go in, but I am hoping to go and frequent the Knutsford one very soon. So I think let's make this the start now. Not that we're putting Curzon over any others. You know, we're happy to go in all sorts of cinema. We've bigged up the Big View experience before, and of course we have recorded from an Everyman and other independent cinemas. But with you, Callum, being a member at Curzon, I really want to push the Callum and a Curzon wave. And you know what? If there's other Callums out there who find themselves in Curzons, please let us know. please let us know, and we can maybe then break the record for the most Callums in one Curzon in a screening.
Well, I look forward to that.
Yes. You know what I look forward to more?
My review.
Your overview of this film. So please, Callum, take us into what film we're about to review and what it was about.
So we went to see a film. We didn't go and see. We watched a film on Mubi, which is a meme in itself. In the sense you got two guys watching a film on Mubi. I only exclusively watch films on Mubi now. Sentimental Value. Came out, I think, earlier in the year. So it came out in, well, I think it was September maybe, sort of last year. But it might have come out earlier in the, September.
Good research. This is the kind of level of research you get on it.
It was September of last year it came out. Directed by Joachim Trier. I mean, so I remember saying, so the thing with this film is, I think it's a meditation on memory and the idea of film. So I know that sounds really like, it's like that meme from The Mighty Boosh when he's talking about the doctor and the pencil, and it's like, it's a film about pain and suffering and loss, and really quite comedic too. But it's all of those things. Essentially, follows the story of a film director called Gustav Borg, who's played by Stellan Skarsgård. And essentially his mother is a survivor of the Holocaust. And basically he's making this film about his experience of his mother dying, but he also is trying to come to terms with his daughters who are kind of, they're estranged really, because he left their mother when they were very young, and now he's kind of back in the picture and wanting to make a film about his past, but also make a film about their childhood. And for the record, like, Gustav Borg is a well-respected director in the field, or at least it's alluded to that anyway. He's kind of like, was once respected, or is respected, sorry, but his career is kind of taking a bit of a downward decline. I don't know why I said downward decline. It's the same thing. Has taken a decline. God, it's all go here, Marcus, tell you.
You're just being very precise.
I'm being very precise. It's also been, I've been speaking for the whole day, so I'm trying to formulate my ideas. Basically, well, his mother. So he's trying to make a film about the memory of his mother, I think, but also he's making a film about the future of nostalgia. Because the film itself deals with this idea of memory and the idea of what he was as a dad. Mm-hmm. So his mother was tortured during the Nazi occupation. She was part of the Norwegian resistance movement. So there's an element of historical trauma there, both profound and intimate, because his relationship with his daughters is quite fragmented because he'd left their mother when they were quite young. So they've dealt with an absent father, basically. And then he's come back and he's trying to use art as a medium to communicate his love for them. But he's also quite a narcissist and quite self-important and self-involved at the same time. He also wants to actually shoot the film in the family home where he grew up as well. So there's an element of like, it's almost kind of, it's not necessarily the homestead in an American sense, but there's certainly an element of grounding and of like roots almost. I mean, we could be quite ethereal with it and talk about how the house is that he proposes to shoot the film in is almost recreating a memory that everyone has a different interpretation of. And then there's quite a lot of scenes in the film where it's quite ethereal and almost dreamlike. So it's almost as if it's a film about making a film. So the film it slips into some quite ethereal moments where the memory of trauma is dreamlike almost, or imagined. And there's a real effort from the film to grapple with this idea of collective trauma and then versus individual trauma. So using the Nazi occupation using the Nazi occupation versus the suicide versus the relationship with his daughters, is quite an interesting angle in that sense. And Renault Ransfer, I think that's how you pronounce it, is fantastic. She plays one of his daughters. It's absolutely brilliant. She plays Nora Borg, who is an actress on stage, and he asks her to star in his film about her grandmother's life. But there's also a tension there because she remembers the past in a completely different way to how he remembers it. So it's almost as if the film is it's a kaleidoscope of feeling, and it begins to sort of question and push the viewer to think about what the purpose of film is in the context of these family dynamics, which is pretty interesting in that sense. I mean, even he gets Elle Fanning, who plays Rachel Kemp. Rachel Kemp's the name of the character. She's an actress, but she's an American actress, and he even gets her to dye her hair like Nora's character, to try and mirror the reality, or at least a perceived reality. And then Nora's sister, Agnes Borg, is not as depressed as Nora, and not as hasn't got the same trauma as Nora, because she's pursued family. She's got her family. She's got a young son and a husband, and then her dad's Gustav kind of uses that against Nora in a way to communicate this idea of you should be happy because you should have this. So there's elements of patriarchy there. There's elements of gender expectations in there as well. But I think fundamentally it's a film about film, and it's a film about making sense of memory and how that's communicated through art. And I think it's a fascinating film in that sense. And it's very sentimental.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Beautiful. Well rounded off. Like the slickest of TV presenters.
Well, I was struggling to get my words out, and I probably butchered the pronunciation of the Norwegian actress, but because the O in Norwegian is or the Norwegian A sound is similar to an O. I'm saying this as if I speak Norwegian. I don't. Like, I don't know what. I was like, I don't
Where
know.
Where are you taking this knowledge from?
The internet, obviously. Anyway, that's that. So I'll stop talking because God, what is happening? There we go.
Thank you very much, Callum, as always. My first thoughts after watching it was that I thought it was a beautifully, wonderfully made film. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed watching it, but for the craft of the filmmaking, you can obviously tell these are some very good filmmakers who love making films, are very good at it, but also love art and love the craft of filmmaking, because a big part of the film is anytime there's a film being made within a film, you know that the filmmakers are kind of like wanting to show how much they love film and the power of it. And this is by no means that. It's not a Tarantino love letter to Hollywood style scenario. I think it's done with great purpose, is that they include the film within it to get onto all the themes that we'll dive into and express them. But it is clearly a very well made film. It is very satisfying to watch. And it is quite intellectual and artsy, and it is quite long and asks a lot of the audience. And I get that. I get it. You've got to be into this type of film to really fully appreciate it. It's not like the big blockbuster that's going to get people in. But as someone who does love film and who loves all of those elements I've just described, I thought it was an amazing example of a beautifully made film. But what I would add to that, and slightly backtracking on what I just said, is that I think the big subject matter it tackles, amongst others, is historic family trauma, but also how closely linked we are to our family and our family history, whether we realize it or not. And the whole film is exploring these relationships, how this plays out within people, but how they try and find some satisfaction or some redemption or fulfillment in the life in the face of this. And it is the film that you describe that they make or try to make within this, is the way that they explore that, and it allows them to discuss it. But what I would say is that even if the film isn't unbelievably accessible on the front of it being quite artsy and slightly highbrow in the way that it goes at things, is that I think that subject matter of family history, family trauma, and that link to your identity being so ingrained from your family, from your parents, and the history of that, is something that the vast majority of people could relate to. And I think beyond the higher ways it tries to communicate these messages, I think just through the raw emotion of the performances and the characters' interactions with each other, even if you're not someone who likes this style of film, I think a lot of people would just connect with those moments of emotion and those relationships within it, and be able to see something in themselves and feel something and feel how it connects with their own view of their life and their identity and their family. And I feel that the film both does the intellectual, higher minded stuff very well, and the artsy filmmaking stuff unbelievably, but also I just think on an entry level, it, through its emotion and characters, really taps into something that's within pretty much all of us. And I think that comes across just through a raw emotion sense, and that really got me and compelled me throughout. But I think that was a really strong point of the film. For you, Callum, what do you think were the big themes that it was going at, and how do you think it addressed them?
I think that when I the first 35, 40 minutes of it, the centerpiece was the home, and this idea of roots and your sense of place of origin, and a sense of space, I think is quite important in communicating identity. And the house, that family house, is a very important part of the trauma and the memory of youth. And the film takes us through this this sort of journey of almost self-discovery. Nora is coming to terms with her trauma, but she's having to sort of reconcile that on stage, which is quite interesting. The public and the private are constantly being played out throughout this film, I think. How one is perceived versus how one remembers. So, like, sorry, in the sense of memory. So your memory of something is perceived in some way by somebody else, but then they'll never really know how you've perceived a particular memory growing up in, but you've both inhabited the same space. So space itself becomes an ethereal idea, because everyone interprets the memory that existed in that space in different ways. It reminded me of Austerlitz, the Sebald novel. It's not really a novel, really. It's kind of part part autobiography, maybe. I think parts. It's essentially it's about. It's not really about the Kindertransport, but it's about this idea of trauma, particularly European trauma, and how that's communicated through literature and memory. And I think that's what this film's doing. It's using different people's experiences. Sorry, using the same experience, but how they've conceptualized it is different. So it's like the complication of memory. It's the complication of being human. It's you know what, on reflection, it's a really interesting piece of art in the way these ideas are communicated. The thing about I think there's an element of as well of this idea of things being obsolete and nothing is ever nothing is ever finished as well. So, like, just as an example, there's a really funny scene when Gustav gives his grandson a birthday present, and it's a series of DVDs of films that are completely inappropriate for a child. Which I found really funny.
Yeah, it's good, and there was a lot of quite dark humor throughout the film, wasn't there?
I think that's kind of like, I think that's the director sort of suggesting, okay, this art form is obsolete because then they even say they don't even have a DVD player to play this film. So it's I think it's a sort of a subtle comment on the what's the word, the fleetingness maybe, or the how something is nothing is ever fixed, or there's an adjective that I can't communicate it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
That feels very apt for this film.
Yeah, but it's this idea that like these people they've all experienced a memory, but they've all interpreted it in different ways. It's very theoretical and philosophical, and then that sort of like manifests itself in this guy, this director whose career is on the decline, and this particular film is meant to revitalize it. He then gives his grandson, the flower of youth, so a dead technology almost, but at the same time there's a purity to that, because I joke that I want to get a flat with a massive TV and just go to the BFI DVD shop and just buy loads and loads of DVDs on really special edition cases, gets 2 massive speakers, and just watch these films on Blu-ray because of the camera that they were filmed on. Like, I think there's a purity to that. And I think the director is making a comment there on an interpretation of art and in how that art is communicated. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it's very ethereal, and I think it's great,
absolutely,
at pursuing that.
But I think exactly what you said there is like the filmmaker's voice is very prevalent throughout the film.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot to go. There's a lot of message being pushed through it. So just to pick up again on what you're saying about trauma, historic family trauma, and then this film, as you mentioned, branches it out into European history. So that whole element of it in there, but it specifically focused on this family's trauma in the film. So the trauma of his mother, and then his struggles, and then of the 2 daughters and how they all interlink. But beyond that, yes, it explores that, but it then explores the difficulty to communicate that trauma, not just trauma, but communicate feelings,
memory. I think it's about memory, communicating. Sorry to interrupt, but communicating memory, I think, is the challenge that a lot of these characters face, because the memory itself is fractured.
Yes, absolutely, and that history and memory lives with all of us in different ways. but then it's like how and makes us feel certain things.
Mm.
But how do we communicate those things it makes us feel, or how do we gain some kind of closure or satisfaction to those feelings? And each of the main characters has some difficulty in communicating their trauma, their family history, their memories. If you think about the two daughters, let me just have a look to make sure I'm getting the names right on this. So Nora, she's quite obviously traumatized, it goes into her mental health issues, but her difficulty to communicate comes out, as we see on stage, one of the opening scenes when she won't go out on stage, and she's stage fright even though she's a theatre actor, and her inability to then want to work with her dad. She feels there's blockages there, but there's obviously things stopping her, and there's things that she needs to get out. But her dad, on the other hand, his way to express is by his filmmaking, and he feels that in his stories he can tell these things, and that's how he gets through it, and that's how he kind of squares the circle of his family history. So much so that he puts his other daughter as a child into one of his films, and we see this early on, where there's this screening, was it a retrospective of his work, and he's watching that, and his other daughter's in there as a young child. But later on in the film, we see that she looks back on that experience and said to him, I was the center of the world when I did it, but then you moved on and made someone else the center of the universe. And it was as if that he needed to channel through his art to do that. But by doing that, created trauma and bad memories in his own children. And whereas the other daughter, the daughter that was in the film, Agnes, she very much panders to him in the way to try and gain the love, to get the satisfaction of that attention. So she's in the film, but also early on when she's discussing with her sister says to her, like, you never confront him. And when she finally does, to draw the line in saying, I don't want my son to be in the film, that's her way of expressing herself. So the point that I'm making here is that there's three characters. We see the family history, and is alluded to of different traumatic things, but also just weight that all of them carry with them in different ways. It's about that, but it's about the difficulty we all find of what do we do with that? What do we do with that weight? What do we do with that memory? Because it causes feelings inside of us, and it causes issues within relationships, but it comes out of people in different ways. We struggle to find ways to realize those emotions in a way that's productive and positive, and this plays over and over in the film until what I think is a wonderful ending. I think this film ends in such a great way. We were chatting before we started recording about the length of the film, and I said to you, Callum, that even though it is quite long, and granted the last 30 minutes in the most part does feel like it's rehashing a lot of stuff the film's already gone over, I think, as I have said on countless times, a film can really round itself off in the last 5 minutes and make so much that you think wasn't worthwhile truly worthwhile at the end, and this film absolutely does that, because we have this moment where it's so it's so clever and so intertwined how they do it, and that they actually do finally make the film. But the way it all comes together is beautiful and amazing. But I think the fact that they all get their moments and find a way to then express these memories, express the trauma, express the frustration in their relationships by finding a way that they can allow each other their space to do that without it feeling like it's being aimed or pointed at each other. And I think there's something satisfying to that, because it's actually the audience gets a sense of closure, as do the characters, and not in a isn't it all wonderful, isn't it like happily ever after. It's just like through the whole film you're holding your breath, and you finally just get to breathe out at the end of the film, and not in a tense way in the way that you're on edge, but in a way that you feel like you kind of a bit suffocated by the relationships, and they all feel suffocated, but actually there's space at the end. And to bring in what you said in the initial description, and this is obviously a point of the filmmakers and showing how much they love film and art being a great way to express and bring people together, it is actually in the end the filmmaking that brings them all together, and that allows them to express. And only through that process does the dad figure out why he wrote that script, which was then evidently about his daughter, because he needed to express in some way. And I think the film, even though it gets there in quite a convoluted way, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, just going back to what I said earlier, is that it is relatively high-minded and artsy, but what it's saying at its core and the emotion it's delivering is something that's very relatable. And it's about how we are all made of our past, but also the pasts of our families and ancestors. And we live with that, but not knowing necessarily how to express it. But that weight impacts the relationships we have in the present. And we have to find ways to express that, to lighten that burden and actually find joy and expression in the relationships we have now. And that sounds like quite overly intellectualized, me saying it, but I think the film is a little bit overly intellectualized, but from the best way possible. And I think it gets to a point that is just very satisfying to watch. And with that intellectual bit in mind, it's like, yes, art and filmmaking as a means to fulfillment and expression. That's one side of the film, and then the other is all of the element that it explores on the screen. And I think that's a beautiful combination, that it doesn't overly labor on either side, but comes together and rounds itself off at the end beautifully to make for a fantastic film. What do you think about the element of not just it being about the trauma, but being about the expression of, or the lack of expression of?
Yeah, I mean, the film itself they got some very sharp cuts from one scene to the next, and I think that's to do with narrative and how this process of the process of communicating a story is at play in this film. Like, it's chunked, so you'll have a scene about the idea of the self, and then it'll freeze on a black screen for like 2 seconds, 1 second. There's the film is quite guillotined in that particular way, I think, and I think it's interesting because memory itself is like a labyrinth. It comes, it goes. You encounter things in different ways that make you remember things, and you might see this smell, taste can bring back memory in ways that you never even know. This film is about this idea of family memory and trauma and identity and history and nostalgia even, which are quite fluid concepts and fluid constructs. But the way the film is shot almost truncates it. So it's kind of like this, and I don't know if that's a sort of a stylistic choice on the part of a subtle stylistic choice on the part of the director, in the sense that, he's trying to communicate how Gustav Borg interprets his life, or whether it's to rub against this idea that memory is fluid. I thought it was stylistically quite interesting. I don't know whether that's what the writer was going for. I don't know. But I don't know if the director
I'd like
was
to
going
think
for
that
that.
we're trying to make it interesting.
Yeah, no, indeed, yeah. I don't. I think there's certainly an element of that. The ending is interesting because, again, it blurs this idea of what is real and what is imagined. So,
yes,
like,
that's nice.
there's this feeling that you think she's going to hang herself. Like, you think Agnes is, sorry, not Agnes, Nora is going to hang herself because narratively, from a narrative perspective, it makes sense, because her father says, "Why are you always so angry? You've got so much hate inside you. You need to let go of that hate." And then the sort of logical conclusion would be, well, I'm going to let go of it by committing suicide. However, it then flashes out and you realize that she's decided to be in this film about the memory of the family, and it ends up sort of coming together in this sort of weird kind of, well, not weird, but this sort of interpretation of dreams, and you don't really know what's real and what's imagined, what's fact, what's fiction, but then at the same time it doesn't really matter because the film fundamentally is about an interpretation of memory anyway. So whatever is important to you it matters. Your interpretation of a memory matters, but so does someone else's interpretation of that memory. And then it's about how do you reconcile those two interpretations? Like I said, an interpretation of dreams, and it's very. I think it's stylistically quite beautiful in that sense. I hate this critique, and I've said this before, but I did struggle with the length. I did.
We just need to feed you 90-minute films, and then we'll be all right.
It was long, and it was very traumatic as well. I also think I wonder whether I've watched this film at the wrong time in my life. Maybe I was already feeling quite vulnerable. I don't know, but maybe I watched it at the wrong time, both in terms of the time zone, because I started it quite late the other night, and maybe sort of an interpretation of dreams before you go to bed. Sentimental Value isn't one before bed because it'll make you question life itself. But it's.
I watched it with a tiramisu.
Felt very so random.
It felt nice and like, oh, we're watching a foreign language film with a tiramisu.
I had a penguin biscuit.
Nice.
But to bring it back to the interpretation of dreams, I think it's this idea that memory is fleeting, and it's an ethereal concept, and I think the film poetically makes that case.
Beautiful. I just want to give one nod to a scene which made me laugh, and I couldn't help but think of you when it was, and it was when he's at the retrospective of his work and he's taking questions, and it just took me back to our episode on Kinds of Kindness again, talking about Mr. Bean's holiday, and it was very much the like when he sat there talking about his film. Yeah. What's the guy called in Mr. Bean's holiday?
Carson Clay.
Yeah, the Carson Clay. And it just, anytime now I see any scenario where a director's there has to talk about their work, I'm just picturing Carson Clay.
I watched Mr. Bean's Holiday again recently. It's,
there you go. That's a wind down film.
You know what? I'm knocking Shrek off the perch.
Shrek can go. Mr. Bean's Holiday.
Shrek can go back in his swamp as he always wanted to, and Mr. Bean's Holiday can come out of. Yeah. So funny.
I think we're going to have to review Mr. Bean's Holiday at some point. We've talked about it enough.
It's so funny. It's so funny. It's daft. It's that daft humor that it's just silly. It is silly. I love it.
Save it for the review. Right. Let us finish this off. I will start. Okay, going back to
that was a very slow
It was, wasn't it?
Okay.
I was trying to think of what I wanted to say. It's like, I think talking about slumber is now slowly taking me into slumber. Come on, we've got this. Let's make it happen. Right, this film, Sentimental Value, as I said at the top, I thought it was fantastic for so many reasons, but just in terms of a filmmaking spectacle, that it was a wonderfully crafted film. Visually, really great. Nothing overly done, just beautiful shots, very well put together, but a great script. It threaded together so well, and it ended perfectly. I thought that was fantastic, and it so much so that I know you just described the ending there, but like my blood was running cold for like the last 10 minutes when you think that like she is going to kill herself, and you're like, no way can it end like this. It cannot, but it feels like it's going to. But then you notice the blue outside of the house. You're like, something's not quite right here, and then it steps away, and you're like, yes, yes, and then it's not just like it's not done just for shock's sake, like we were saying with the drama in the last episode, whereas that was shock for shock's sake in many bits, whereas this was shocking because for the sake of then it rounded itself off because then the narrative needed it and it felt good. So in terms of the craft of the film, unbelievable. But I think the topics and the themes it gets into, like just all we've had to sink our teeth into there, I think it takes you into such a profound plane of thought for what it's discussing. And you can't escape that it's quite an intellectual film and it's going for those bigger things. But what's wrong with that? Film should be allowed to go after higher thoughts and make us think and make us challenge ourselves and question ourselves and dig deep into our thoughts and emotions. But I think it was by no means overly artsy because, as I said, I think that even if that film styling is not your bag, I feel it really explores so much of a human experience that the vast majority of us could get something from. And that's not in necessarily a discussed intellectual way, but it's in a raw, emotive way that the characters display, and specifically the family relationships. And I think that's something that we could all connect with, and the film gives you that, as well as the more intellectual ponderings that it puts forward. Thought it was fantastic. Well-deserved Oscar for the best international feature. I would even go as far as saying I preferred it to One Battle After Another. And is my favourite of the previous Oscar ones from earlier in the year that I saw. For that reason, I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. I thought it was really good. Callum?
I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 as well. I thought the way it communicates these ideas of memory and nostalgia is really poetic, and it's really quite... it's well done. It's just a really, really... I think it's a... In terms of concepts, I think it's great. My only critique really of it is the last 30, 35 minutes. I felt like it had made the same point. It got quite repetitive in the sense that you've made this point already, just this is in a different way. So that's the only, and that's a minor point in that sense. I know I said off mic it's either 3 stars or 5 stars. Like in terms of if we were doing it out of 5, but we do it out of 10 because we're different. Like, you know,
you've essentially split the difference there.
I could do. What's that? 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that 8?
Well, by giving it 9,
I've split.
You've essentially gone for a 4.
Oh,
and no, a 4.5.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that then. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
You can tell I had to reset maths, can't you?
This is not a maths podcast, it's an art podcast.
Exactly.
And on that note, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much, Callum. As always, another wonderful conversation about film. And thank you for listening, everyone. We always appreciate it. And if you've appreciated us, we would appreciate you showing us some appreciation by leaving a review wherever you're listening to this. Please send us your feedback. We'd love to hear about it. Come and join us on Instagram and TikTok at the Glacé Film Club. Best way to get in touch with us, comment on the films we've been reviewing, and let us know what you'd like us to check out as well. There'll also be some clips, behind the scenes photos, and you'll have to catch up with what we've been doing and hopefully the new series of Callum at Curzon. But until next time, that was another episode of the Glacé Film Club podcast. We'll see you all later.